coming shortly. I know a lot of you are really looking forward to this. Commissioner Jorgensen has been somebody who's very, very closely watched now, obviously, in terms of energy policy. So here's the reward. There are 3 energy bands hidden under 3 seats in this room. If one of the energy bands is under your seat, you get free admittance to next year's Solar Power Summit. You get free tickets. So everybody, go ahead and take a look under your seats. See if you have a rubber band. Hopefully you don't find anything unpleasant under there other than a rubber band. And if you have a rubber band, you have won tickets. Yes, we have one over here. And so Commissioner Jorgensen has just arrived. So if you found your ribbons, just find the organizers at the front table and they'll take care of your free tickets. So now, without further ado, congratulations to those of you who won the tickets. And we're going to get started with the day's festivities, again with the opening speech by Commissioner Jorgensen. So I'd like to welcome Valberga back onto the stage, who will introduce the commissioner. Valberga.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome again. Welcome to this day 2 of our Solar Power Summit, which I'm promising will be yet another exciting day. We have a very nice program. We have also ordered sun for today, so I hope you did enjoy coming here in full sunshine, brightening our day, which is very nicely kicking off this second day of the Solar Power Summit. We have a special kickoff here today for the second day of the Solar Power Summit, enlightening us, inspiring us for the second day of very intense discussions that we will have with a European leader that is driving Europe's energy future and that is driving also the future of housing in Europe, Commissioner Dan Jørgensen. Before I'm asking you to come on stage, Commissioner, allow me a couple of thoughts and a couple of reflections. I don't need to tell you what solar is and how much we have been contributing in the past to Europe's future. You know all of that. You have been minister in Denmark, and you're very well informed as commissioner. We have seen that when we had our exchange at the CEO Forum. But allow me a couple of thoughts on the discussions we had yesterday. And the discussions were around 3 main building blocks. It was around security, it was around competitiveness, and it was around what buildings can contribute to Europe's energy system. Now, in security, it was very clear, and it's a no-brainer. The less fossil fuels that we are consuming, that is defense strategy. Renewables, solar is defense strategy. Now, we also need to make sure that when we're talking about security, and it's clear that decentralization will be able to shield us from attacks, but it's clear also that if we're talking about designing the new energy security strategy of Europe, renewables need to sit at the table. That was different in the past. And we need to make sure that the spending that is going into defense also needs to go into energy. So security, the first one. Competitiveness. There was a clear understanding that the faster we kick out gas from the merit order, the faster European businesses, European households can benefit from lower energy bills, from lower electricity bills. So we need to really go fast in kicking out gas. And we have been discussing at the CEO Forum, Commissioner, what it is that we can do quickly. And you wanted to have an answer from our sector, what we can do quickly in order to get there. And it was a common understanding yesterday here that the fastest solution to it is batteries, is storage big times in order to help us overcome the bottlenecks that we are seeing. Of course, we need to modernize grids, we need to have digitalization more in our grids, we need more flexibility more generally. We need to have more demand, electrifying Europe, we need to have flexible demand, all of that and many more things need to be done. But if you ask what we can do very fast, that is deploying storage assets big times that will help us in the next couple of years go faster. And then the third one is what the role of buildings and the role of smart solar buildings in the energy system. Today, 2/3 of solar is installed on roofs. And this is something that will continue to happen. Why? Because people want to have cheap electricity and they want to control their power, their power production, their power consumption. And it is clear that having all those people installing solar, and by the way, not just households, but also businesses and industrial buildings, that this is very much supporting Europe's energy transition because we need the buy-in of Europeans in the energy transition, and this is where there's a direct connection and where the benefits are reaching consumers very quickly. Now you could say, interesting, but, and we had this discussion and this is why I'm bringing it up, it is a little bit more expensive to put solar on the roof, so why don't you do ground-mounted? We need both of it, that is very clear. And the beauty of both is that they're both cheaper than fossil alternatives, so we should just go for it. And maybe one last thing, because we've been presenting a report yesterday, and it's all about flexibility, as you can see here, a report on buildings. Buildings have a huge potential contributing to Europe's flexibility. In the report that we've been presenting yesterday, we've been showing that buildings, if they are smart solar buildings, can contribute to half of Europe's flexibility needs by 2030, daily, on a daily basis, and even on a yearly basis could contribute 1/3. Commissioner, I am a big fan of Danish design. It has brought a lot of nice things, but in particular, some iconic lamps, and they are providing beautiful, extremely beautiful light. Now, solar is here to bring the natural light to the benefit of Europe. The solar sector is here to support Europe on security, on competitiveness, and on combating climate change, which continues to be a very important topic. And we are here to support you in the next 5 years. It will be crucial years. And we will be very happy to work with you and with your team to overcoming the challenges that we have. Thanks a lot for joining us again. The floor is yours, Commissioner.
Good morning. So before I begin, I have to confess something, and that is that I am actually not a big expert on the sun, because I come from Denmark. That's why we make the lamps. We have an average of 4.5 hours of sunshine every day. And I grew up there, of course. But then, when I was a young man, I moved to Seattle. Wasn't much better. I had 1 hour more. And now I'm back in Brussels with less than 4.5 hours. So I don't know if I follow the clouds or it's the clouds that follow me, but something is wrong. So I haven't seen a lot of sun in my life, but I do know a thing or two about solar power and how important it is for Europe and the world, especially now. We live in a very challenging moment, and I would also say a defining moment for Europe. We need to boost our competitiveness, and we need to rapidly bring down our energy costs. We need to increase our security. We need to protect Europe's place in the world, and we need to accelerate decarbonization. In the face of these challenges, we need to deliver the full benefits of a true energy union. And for this, we need more solar power, now more than ever. I realize, of course, that I'm preaching to the converted here in this room, but outside this room there are still people who do not see the benefits of solar power. So let me share 3 numbers which demonstrate why the EU is putting solar at the center of our energy system. So the first number is 2.5 trillion. It's a huge number, obviously. But this is the amount in euros that we are able to save in energy bills between now and 2040 by implementing our Affordable Energy Action Plan. 2.5 trillion euros. To deliver these huge savings, we must deliver more solar energy. To keep the pace in our targets, we need almost 600 gigawatts of solar energy in the EU by 2030. But today, across Europe, solar farms are waiting years to be built. Hundreds of gigawatts of green, affordable energy are waiting to be unleashed. We cannot wait any longer. Therefore, our action plan will support faster permitting. We aim to reduce times significantly. So for projects that are not complicated, it should take no longer than 6 months to get a permit. So not decades, not years, 6 months. For bigger, more complicated projects, no longer than 2 years. It is not just about building more projects, it's also about building the business case for the solar sector. This means investing in flexibility, storage indeed, and integration in buildings. To scale up investments and provide stability in the face of market uncertainties, we are establishing a tripartite contract for affordable energy between the public sector, clean energy developers and producers, and the energy-consuming industry. We are also boosting the uptake of long-term contracts for renewable energy, especially to energy-intensive businesses. This will help to ensure that the savings of solar are not dictated by the volatility of fossil fuel prices. Let me, of course, also mention electrification, which is the next key challenge for our European Union and our energy union. We need to make cleaner, more efficient, and more flexible energy. For that, we need electrification, and there solar is a vital part of the transformation. We will start work on an electrification action plan in spring. We count on you and all other stakeholders to make it a meaningful roadmap towards the electrification of our energy union. So, the second number I want to share with you is 47 million. This is the number of Europeans who could not afford to adequately heat their homes in 2023. In this wealthy part of the world, 47 million people are actually freezing. This is totally unacceptable, but it also illustrates to me the challenges that we face to deliver more secure, affordable, and sustainable energy. These challenges are overlapping, and so are the solutions. By implementing the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, we ensure that all new buildings will be designed to optimize their solar energy generation. The solar mandate comes with a clear deadline, not least for public and non-residential buildings such as offices, warehouses, schools and hospitals. It also provides clear opportunities to reduce the cost of living for our citizens while boosting more efficient and decarbonized energy at the same time. So, the final number I want to share with you is 1 million. 1 million, that is the number of people we can employ in the solar sector by 2027. According to the number crunchers in the Solar Power Europe, most of these jobs will be in the area of installations, but there is also a need to increase solar manufacturing in Europe. Currently, over 90% of worldwide commissioned manufacturing facilities for PV are in China. The EU has a set goal of at least 30 gigawatt in European solar manufacturing at each stage of the value chain by 2030. This will not only deliver jobs and support a just transition, it will also make solar supply chains more resilient and sustainable. And of course, we need to make sure that our supply chains are more secure against growing geopolitical and climate challenges, as well as threats from physical and cybersecurity attacks. In this context, I'm glad to announce that the Commission will soon begin an assessment of critical elements in the EU solar value chain, in particular regarding cybersecurity risks. As the key players in Europe's solar sector, your input will be sought and will be valued. To conclude, we face a challenging moment for the world and for Europe. But as someone who has lived in both Denmark, Seattle and Brussels, let me tell you, even when the sky is filled with dark clouds, lights always find a way through. In Europe, we need to see the light, appreciate our abilities and realize our strengths. Europe is stronger together, and together we are stronger with solar. So let's turbocharge our solar sector to deliver sustainable and affordable energy, to support households and jobs, and to help us unlock a genuine energy union for a more secure, competitive and decarbonized Europe. Over the next 5 years, this will be my focus, and I count on your support. So let's get the message out there. The sun is out in Europe today, even in Brussels. I don't know what it is that you do. So let's flex our solar muscle. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Commissioner. Can we show people how we are flexing our solar muscle? I have one band for you, and I take another one. Because this is how we can flex our muscles. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thank you. And you can keep one if you want.
Probably somebody on the communication team, when they got that idea, and colleagues of imagine how fun they will look in the stage.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valberga, and a great thank you to Commissioner Jorgensen for a great keynote speech to get us enthused, talk about what's possible, what the EU can do, and as he said, it's very clearly on the EU's agenda, on the Commission's agenda. And you can tell how often we have sun here in Brussels by how much people have been talking about it yesterday and today. It's a major topic of conversation. So now we're going to move on to something very exciting. It's going to be a ceremony that involves Ukraine. This is obviously a conflict that's shadow has been cast upon all of our discussions here at this conference, but generally in Brussels. And so it's really important to acknowledge some of the energy work that's going on there. So I would like to welcome to the stage Nina Shuniam, who is Executive Director of Greenpeace Germany, and Ilya Kusenko, who is a campaigner with Greenpeace Ukraine, and Valberga, once more, here to the stage to tell us about this great initiative.
Thanks a lot. So thanks very much for joining us here today. Indeed, it's an exciting moment to have you here today and have the two of us basically announcing a very, very important collaboration. More than 3 years ago, Russia invaded Ukraine, and millions of Ukrainian people currently do not have a stable energy supply. Ukraine's energy system has been, as we all read in the media, regularly attacked. That was already back in 2022-23 a huge issue when 9 gigawatt of energy capacity have been destroyed. That was half of Ukraine's capacity. And we have seen also in media reports that last year saw a lot of attacks. Half of the large network substations were destroyed. It is essential today more than ever to stand with the Ukrainian people, and renewables can play a major role in supporting Ukraine. Decentralized electricity is less vulnerable to attacks. I was mentioning it before. But also we need to think about the future prosperity of Ukraine when we finally can rebuild Ukraine and we finally can support lasting peace where renewables can play a major role. And solar already today plays a major role in Ukraine. Solar is the lifeline. We, as Solar Power Europe, have been supporting Ukraine from day one with a campaign that we have been running together with our national association, BSW, from Germany. And a special thanks also to one of our board members, Jörg Ebel, who has been very supportive. Solar Supports Ukraine campaign has been supporting solar to be installed on schools, on hospitals in Ukraine. So already today, it is providing the lifeline that is needed. And it's essential to continue that support. And this is why I'm very happy that you are here today, that Solar Power Europe, together with Greenpeace, we are starting a collaboration on accelerating the deployment of PV systems across Ukraine. Our efforts must go beyond deploying individual solar systems, as we've been doing already in the past with our campaign. And this is why we're joining forces to make sure that we develop and promote solar business environment in Ukraine. So that is very important for solar to thrive, but also to seize very concrete opportunities from European funds that we have. And we are particularly looking at the EU-Ukraine facility opportunities together to see how those funds can be used for solar. Ukraine, Europe needs durable peace. And solar energy brings more than just power. It brings hope, it brings opportunity, and it brings the promise of a brighter and peaceful future. We are very much committed, and we are very much looking forward to collaborating on all of that with you at Greenpeace. Thanks very much for joining us, and thanks for having your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the why is quite clear, why we do need to go for decentralized energy in Ukraine. But what's also quite a challenge, even before this morning, before breakfast, I had a discussion about the how and how difficult it is. So I'm very happy in our short presentation, I'm about to show you how we did it. And if you have more questions, please do not hesitate to ask my colleague Ilya Kuksenko, who really was on the ground and knows how it can be feasible and how it can be done. So he already flexed his muscles and knows. And I'm happy to sign the memorandum of understanding and give you a little glimpse in our presentation how we move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. We're signing now, and then you present? Okay, we're signing now. Good.
I don't think I will say anything that keeps you from signing, so.
So let's then show everyone what we're signing. So please go ahead.
Yeah, I need the slides up, please. So thank you very much for having us here. You see behind us the colleagues of our newly opened office in Ukraine, which we opened in September 2024, coming out of the how, because we thought in 2022 as Greenpeace Germany and as Greenpeace, and as Greenpeace Central Eastern Europe, how can we support the people in Ukraine and how can we tackle our opportunity that we can do the green modernization of the Ukraine and not only showcase how can it be done within Ukraine, but also how can be the positive long-term effects for all over Europe. So normally Greenpeace as an international organization, we strongly go for creative actions, we strongly go for advocacy, and we strongly go for big-scale solutions. But in this case, we decided we need to demonstrate the how and how it can be really done and how to win over the communities to support us. So here you get a glimpse on how we sorry, I was too fast. So as I already mentioned, this is the opening of the office in the Ukraine. We initiated our project 2022 and it was quite obvious that the war would not stop easily. And we thought, what could be our Greenpeace role? As you know, peace is also essential to our work. And how can we support the decentralized energy system? How can we support people on the ground and speed up with the exit of fossil fuels? So we did some feasibility studies and we're checking in which areas would it be done most easily and where's the most need for solar power, also for pump heat systems. And so we found a couple of hospitals and also kindergartens and schools where we supported the system. And also we did some river projects with the communities close to the rivers where a dam has been destroyed, and we gave guidance and instructions how could be solar power installed instead, and also how could be dealt with the destroyed dam. On purpose, we chose micro projects to win over the communities and to show that this is possible to scale up. And now we are entering the next stage. As you can see here, we offer widespread solar instruction training for women, installation trainings, so all over Ukraine. Because besides all the obstacles that are on a financial, on a trust, on a security, and on a political level, there's also a shortage of workforce. And if we don't tackle those problems, we will never succeed. So this is why we do these trainings for women, solar installations. And also we have now created a huge demands in more than 100 schools and hospitals that are demanding for solar power. But right now we will not go for scale up on a project level. Right now we are going for advocacy on a national level to jump on the next curve. And this is why I'm so happy that we are together with Solar Power Europe to jump on the next national advocacy level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so please do not hesitate to interview my colleague later in the break, because it's really fascinating what he achieved with his team in Ukraine with Greenpeace.
Thanks very much, Nina. Thanks to both of you. Some really incredible work going on there in Ukraine, and it really highlights how important security of supply is and the supply chain. And that's going to be the topic of our first panel today. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, there are different panels happening in different times. So, quick programming note, you can attend the side session on Europe's energy workforce in the battery room that will be starting now. So if you'd like to attend that in session, I invite you to quietly make your way out of the room now before we continue with the first panel here in the Flex Room, which will be about supply chains. Now, as we just heard, more than 3 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the country's energy security is still under threat. Solar, as the most accessible and versatile clean energy technology, can be crucial to rebuilding the country while ensuring lasting peace. You may be able to take out a generator, you may be able to bomb a power plant, but you cannot bomb the sun. It will always be there, whether Russia likes it or not. So during this session, Solar Power Europe and Greenpeace, we heard just how they will be working, and we're going to be hearing more about how important the supply chain is and to guarantee that security of supply. So I'd like to welcome here to the stage Dries Akke, who is Deputy CEO of Solar Power Europe, who will be moderating this panel on how to make solar supply chains more resilient and more sustainable. Dries?
All right, that was shorter than I thought. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you all. As was introduced already by the moderator, we'll be talking about supply chains for the next hour. The theme of this summit is Let's Flex. It's about accelerating deployment. It's about making sure that solar continues to thrive. The business model is there. Flexibility enables that. But that does not mean in any way that we're forgetting about where solar is coming from and where solar products are coming from. And I think it's fair to say that we have a problem. Yeah? Solar supply chains are too concentrated from one source, and that needs to change. And this has been a topic in Solar Power Europe that we dedicate a lot of time on. It's a very challenging conversation, very interesting as well. I spent a lot of time on that myself. I think it's intellectually also really interesting to see how we can combine this deployment boom together with a pull on the demand side for European solar products and for resilient products. So I'm very much looking forward to this conversation, and I'm very glad not to be doing that on my own, but actually be accompanied by a wonderful panel of speakers. And I'd like to invite all of these people to come to stage, so please join me in welcoming Stefano Lorenzi from Tree Sun. A little round of applause while Stefano comes. Stefano, if you can take a seat. Katarina David from K2 Systems. Katarina, thank you. Javier Otaño from Mondragon Assembly. Javier, welcome. Mr. Eldon Lee from DAS Solar in France. I must say, yeah, okay, I haven't seen you yet. Yeah, thanks. Eldon, do you have a microphone? Yeah.
Hi.
Yes, okay, very good. Peter Vaat, Managing Director from RCT Solutions. Peter, welcome. And last but not least, from the European Commission, Mr. Jacek Truczynski from DG Grow. Jacek, welcome as well.
Hi. Hello.
Thank you very much, lots of gentlemen and lady. Okay, so as I already mentioned, the supply chains need more diversification. There is a geopolitical context. There's also just the risk of supply chain cluttering with small things happening that could already have a big impact. So if I can just start with you, with the European Commission, Jacek. Resilience, diversification is important. The Clean Industrial Deal also talks about that. So can you just kind of, for the audience, kind of bring us up to speed? How would you describe the current European policy approach to making sure that we diversify solar supply chains, that we make it more resilient? Jacek, educate us.
Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be here today. So I think you mentioned the Clean Industrial Deal, and I think the Clean Industrial Deal confirmed the approach that we have been taking for the last couple of years with the European Solar Alliance, with the Net Zero Industry Act, with the modification of state aid rules. We are mobilizing all of those different resources, financing, regulatory, to make sure that we indeed diversify the supply of solar PV in Europe, and that we also have a significant part of the manufacturing also in Europe, because there's a security consideration, but there's also the economic industrial dimension. And so what you have seen in the Clean Industrial Deal is in terms of the resilience approach, we are gradually moving from diversification also to made in Europe. So that's also interesting, but for the moment it's at the stage of, let's say, political announcements. Another important aspect there is financing. I mentioned state aid rules. Here the Commission is currently consulting stakeholders, industry, on how we should adjust state aid rules to make sure that they are fit for purpose. And here I would really invite you to provide input to the consultation. So there's a strong commitment to continue supporting those objectives. On my end, I would say, while we plan as part of the Clean Industrial Deal the future, we really right now need to focus on implementation, because we did already a lot. The Net Zero Industry Act was approved last summer. In the coming 2 weeks, we will be voting on some key pieces of secondary legislation which will specify how member states have to apply those resilience rules, notably in auctions for green power. And on the financing side, member states have asked the Commission to approve as much as 15 billion of state aid for notably manufacturing solar PV. But how much of this will then be translated into specific subsidies for manufacturing is a question mark. We have to help member states make this a reality. So planning for the future, but also really above all focusing right now on implementing properly what we have agreed.
Thank you, Jacek. And you did indeed mention the importance of implementing the new frameworks that we have been developing over the last years, in particular the Net Zero Industry Act. Of course, before we can implement that, or before member states can implement that, they need the implementing acts to give further guidance. What can you say about that, Jacek, at this moment? Like, are we going to see those implementing acts soon? Can we then start programming auctions for 2026, I guess, or how do you see that process?
Yes, so you have seen the drafts, and thank you for your comments on those. We have been busy in the last couple of weeks integrating them into the texts. We really hope to have the votes in the coming 2-3 weeks. And after that, I mean, the deadlines are set in legislation, so auctions will have to, 30%, a third of the auctions for green power in Europe will have to have resilience as part of the selection or eligibility criteria as of 1st January 2026. For procurement, the deadline is not specified, but we think that makes sense in principle to align the two. Also start on the 1st of January. And for procurement, it's all procurement. You know, resilience will have to be applied from the biggest ministry in a member state to the smallest school. So we also will have to do a lot of work to educate, help authorities put that into practice. And that was also one of the guiding principles for us in defining those rules, to make them relatively easy to understand. I'm not sure if we have fully succeeded. If you read the acts, it's quite a headache to understand everything. So I think we will have to also work on guidance, best practice sharing, all of that. We are setting up also working groups with member states to do that kind of work.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Jacek, and it's a bit as a joke, but it was not easy to understand, I should say, when reading the drafts. And yeah, we had some interesting internal discussions, and people had to reread certain paragraphs a couple of times. But hey, I understand where it comes from. Can I just ask you one more thing, Jacek? Because you mentioned public procurement. A lot of attention is indeed going to the implementing act on auction design. That takes a lot of headspace for good reasons, of course. Public procurement feels a little bit under-highlighted, and from a solar point of view, from a point of view is also that it relates to rooftop solar, public procurement, rooftop mandate on public buildings. Do you have any idea, or is the Commission doing any kind of analysis on what is actually the market size of what you can call now the emerging resilience market pool? Do you have any idea, or should we somehow maybe have a look at it?
Yeah. It's a good question. We have done some estimates, but I have seen different figures. I have seen that, for example, for auctions, I think it was your figures, SPE, that we talk about 20% of the market, but this will grow. For procurement, I have seen figures as much as 10%, but I think it might be less. So I think what we have to conclude here is that we talk about 30% of 20% for auctions, because a third of the auctions, so that's about 7%, plus maximum 10% for procurement. So we talk about less than 20% of the market. So if we really want to have an impact on the market, we also have to see how a similar approach could be applied to schemes that are not covered, like PPAs, for example. And of course, there are no regulatory requirements. It would have to be done on a voluntary basis, but maybe there are ways to encourage also in PPAs, in subsidy schemes, to apply similar rules. And by the way, some of the subsidy schemes will be covered also by those rules. So member states will be able either to give an extra subsidy to products that are more resilient, or they could outright exclude products coming from the biggest source of supply, as we call it, from eligibility from those schemes. But this does not cover, for example, feed-in tariffs. So also there's a gap that we could potentially try filling.
I really think we need to pick that up because I believe that giving that public procurement, still small today, but in combination with the rooftop solar mandate, could become a lot bigger. And then we quickly talk about, in a couple of years, a resilient market size of 10, 15, 20 gigawatts. Not a bad start. And yeah, so thank you very much, Jacek, for that, for setting the stage. Let me now turn also to, of course, the corporates and the solar power members that are meant to deliver on these targets, and in particular, starting with the CEO from Treesun in Italy, Mr. Stefano Lorenzi. You've heard the introduction of the Commission, of Jacek, especially with respect to the Net Zero Industry Act. So from your point of view, Stefano, is the Net Zero Industry Act going to make a difference? Is it going to create demand for your products that today you are looking for? Stefano.
Yes, thanks for this very question, and good morning, everybody. Yes, indeed, it will make a vital difference, I will say, to have NZIA and other instruments which will make possible for European manufacturing companies to compete with Chinese companies. Let's be clear, today it's impossible to compete on price criteria with Chinese companies. It's normally very difficult. I come from other sectors. I come from the telecom, and it's normally very difficult, but especially in the photovoltaic manufacturing industry today, because Europe buys, 95% from China, so there is almost a monopoly, number one. Number two, Chinese companies are selling below their cost, so they are doing dumping. This is unfair because of the overcapacity that has been created in China. This is impossible, so it's impossible to compete at price criteria level. But let me tell you, while you see some of the image here about what we did in Catania. Just a couple of things, and then I'll come back maybe in the next question about more financing requirements. I think we're very proud. We have finished the installation of the 3 gigawatt cells and module production in Catania, thanks to the support of our shareholder, which is Enel. We have hired 600 people so far. We plan to hire an additional 300 to build a huge, we build a huge manufacturing capacity. We're ramping up as we speak. We build the first 100 megawatt approx. But this company, 3 gigawatt, is a lot of stuff. It's 14,000 panels per day, 800,000 cells per day. So it's a lot, and we need a sustainable go-to-market to make this company sustainable. I brought some stuff here for people who might be interested later, but we don't only produce stuff. We are investing in technology, in innovation. We did not have the plan to replicate what Chinese do in terms of technology. We decided to take a different route. We implemented heterojunction, while today 95% of the Chinese production is TOPCon. Heterojunction is the next technology wave. And our cells we claim have better performances, have more robust. They can flex, Walburga. And they are more durable in time because silicon is processed at very low temperature. And so heterojunction is not only a better product today, but is the best platform for developing perovskite cells. And that's what we are investing. I brought here, perovskite is a very interesting material. So you can see probably from here the LEDs, the LED. And you wouldn't see that from a normal panel. Even if I had a panel here, it will not produce any electrons because the normal panels take the yellow part of the light, while perovskite takes the blue-violet part of the light, which is indeed artificial light. So that's why you see the light here. And what we did in Catania, together with the French Research Center, so we have a strong collaboration, we did the first tandem cell, which is actually taking the two, perovskite and heterojunction together, and we hit the first world record of almost 31% efficiency on a 3x3 cells, and we have our labs in Catania. I mean, this is a lot. I mean, it means a lot. It's almost 1/3 more efficiency that you could get from the same surface, or 1/3 more energy. So it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. And it's not the end. This is to tell us, ourselves, first of all, as European, that not only solar, as you guys were, Telis and Walburga were saying, is certainly the renewable technology in the mix of renewables which has the brighter future and the bigger potential, but it's also a technology which has still a lot to give. So as Europeans investing on this new technology, heterojunction and tandem, and we plan to have commercial tandem in a couple of years to hit the market, that's the plan we're working towards, I think it's a strategic choice. And it's a one that I think we should take.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stefano. That was really inspiring. Congratulations again. I'm actually really looking forward to next week because I will be visiting
I know.
the factory in
We look
Catania.
forward to that.
Yeah,
We'll be impressed.
What's the temperature in Catania? Like nice spring weather, I'm supposing.
I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time outside of the factory, to be honest with you. They buried me within the factory.
Looking forward to that for sure. So thank you for that. Moving on to other parts of solar supply chain, because solar is of course not just modules or cells. There's a lot of different components that is also that have their own supply chain realities. Some of that is still much more European, and maybe I get to that through Mrs. David, Katarina from K2, because K2 is a manufacturer of mounting structures, an essential part of solar systems, and I believe, I should probably check it with Jacek, mounting structures are also now part of the, you're nodding,
yeah.
Right? So now officially also part of the component lists of solar systems under the Net Zero Industry Act, so thank you to the Commission for that. So Katarina, also from your point of view, do you expect the Net Zero Industry Act to create that demand pool that you're looking for, Katarina?
Yeah, let's say, first of all, welcome and thank you, good morning for having me. So let's say the mounting systems up to now, K2 Systems is still manufacturing 85% in Europe. Great. So for the aluminum industry, the steel industry, solar PV mounting structures is an important part because for them it's a way to go, it's simple. And we are doing that mainly out of, let's say, it has a lot of possibilities, partnership. We as K2 Systems are always saying, we are connecting strengths. So that means with our suppliers, we can partner far easier here. And there's a lot of knowledge and know-how in Europe for steel and aluminum production. So I think the Net Zero Industry Act itself, let's say, could bring also a broader light on mounting structure itself, on tenders, auctions, etc., where you need putting an eye on maybe not only the lowest price, but really being aware of mounting systems as a critical part, ensuring safety and long-lasting performance. So that one would help. And on the other hand, it put maybe also a glance on, hey, let's look where does the aluminum come from, where does the steel come from. And we are quite proud of that. We're still doing that all in Europe and really EU Europe, because that guarantees us as well not having, for example, Russia aluminum inside or whatever, because that helps as well. So I think there are different criteria. In the moment, I would say the Net Zero Industry Act wouldn't help the part of mounting structures too much, but it's important because we are getting a really relevant part. So it's really good for public tenders. And let's say it could bring a general push in not putting that one outside as out of Europe, leaving that kind of part still in Europe because it's important. And also, as we are living a lot of times, we are having tailor-made solutions for big rooftops, etc. So also there, finding together with our suppliers, with our partners, the appropriate solution is far easier. So let's say we are still inside the mounting systems. I think mainly it's kind of 50% maybe European manufacturing. So I think that one could rise. And let's say we as K2, we are still proud of having more than 80% of European manufacturing. So the Net Zero Industry Act itself would bring a push, but let's say it underlines what we are anyway doing.
That's very good to know. So you see it more as a securitization or a guaranteeing of the current capacities.
Yeah.
It will give some further welcome clarity to the market, but in terms of building new capacity, maybe that signal is not strong enough. I think that's
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think that signal would not be strong enough. There, maybe CBAM would far more help. Executing CBAM on a really level would help to push that one.
I understand. Yeah, thank you very much, Katharina. Thank you. We move to yet another part of the solar supply chain and solar systems, and it's actually about the machinery, the equipment to manufacture solar products. And that's a business that Mondragon Assembly is, of course, very much into. Mr. Otaño, thanks for joining us. So, yeah, you're a turnkey provider of manufacturing equipment. So similar question about what the Net Zero Industry Act does for the European market. But maybe if you can also give an international perspective, because Solar Power Europe also works on creating demand for European products outside of Europe through Europe's engagements, Global Gateway Initiative, international partnerships. So also Europe's investment outside of Europe is an opportunity for European manufacturers and creating a market there. And I think that's especially interesting for you because there, of course, outside of Europe, there's some more factories being built, I guess. So are you using that opportunity as well? What's the balance between your European market and your international markets, Javier?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting us here. So, yeah, the situation we see in Europe for equipment manufacturers is it's quite critical. If there are not module manufacturers, there are no people to sell equipment to. So we have to find customers abroad. We see that with this NZIA initiative, there is some ways that new module manufacturers will be created in the future. But we see that in the last 2-3 years, what we have seen, it's going in the opposite direction of what we have been hearing here for the last 2 days, that we want to reindustrialize Europe, we want to securize our supply chain, etc. That's not what has been happening. So let's think that this is a change in this trend, and this will be bringing a new light, new sun. The same way we have sun in Brussels, maybe we have sun in the module manufacturing industry in Europe. Let's hope for that. So meanwhile, the rest of the world has been doing things. We see how US market was about module manufacturing 3-4 years ago, which was a very small market, not a lot of knowledge, not a very prepared supply chain, and they invested in the IRA, simple scheme, easy, OPEX was supported more than the CAPEX, other activities, and now US has way more module manufacturing capacity than what Europe can dream of in this moment. We see other markets. We see India. They have the PLI. They have the system with the ALMM, the authorized list of module manufacturing for the public procurement. So in the NZIA, we start to hear those kind of things: public procurement, non-pricing criteria, which will be boosting the demand or the part of the market where European actors can be successful. But we see that there is lack of a wider view of the European ecosystem. Sometimes we see the supply chain just as a matter of polysilicon ingot wafer cell module. Then we can go to inverters mounting systems, but that's a chain, and solar is not a chain, it's a net. There is a raw material supplier, glass, aluminum frames, encapsulants, wires, etc. There is equipment suppliers for modules, cells, etc. There is all the R&D activities which are able to bring this impressive figures. So all these people need to work together and need to be supported. For us, NZIA, it's great. It can bring gigawatt scale projects to Europe. That's perfect. But there are still projects in Europe are not gigawatt scale. They are trying to survive. If we lose them, we are going to invest way more to create something that was already there. So we need to find ways to support the people that are already there.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for highlighting that. Can I still ask you a little bit about the international markets, Javier? Because, of course, outside of Europe, there's some more plants being built. You mentioned India, you mentioned the US. Do you feel, as Mondragon Assembly, as a turnkey provider, you have a fair chance in those markets? Do you think the European Union, from a policy point of view, should do something more to promote European equipment in those international markets?
There is a chance for us to work there. That's why we are fighting hard. But we have the European equipment supplier network is not as big as the Chinese, so we cannot face a 10 gigawatt project. That's too big for anyone in Europe. So we have to find the activities where people are looking for something different. So our strategy is clear. We go to the medium-sized projects, or we go to those projects we have some kind of special feature, like the startup award yesterday, Eliab. They are doing ultralight or flexible modules. We are working with people doing lightweight modules. We are working with people that are making HJT. So we find our markets where not the specific mainstream module is made, or not only the mainstream module is made. So there, let's say we can fight on our own. If we need to fight on the gigawatt scale projects, then support from EU is always welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Moving on the panel and maybe picking up on one particular part of the Net Zero Industry Act, but it's quite an important one, and that is the definition of resilience, because we also heard Jacek from the European Commission also in opening statements referring to Made in Europe. So that continues to be a very interesting conversation / difference of interpretations about what does resilience actually mean. Does resilience mean not from the dominant source, so outside of in our case, from China? Or does it mean made in Europe? Or does it mean made by Europeans? So these are three levels of interpretations of resilience. Is it not from China? Is it on European soil? Or is it by Europeans? And I'd like to pose that question to Peter, Managing Director from RCT Solutions. You've been around in the industry, so you have no doubt some developed perspective on that, Peter. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, we are currently involved in about 76 gigawatts of new solar factory capacities in India, in Europe, in USA, in Middle East. In Europe, we are governing 4 projects, gigafactory projects in Europe. And from my perspective, the final target for me is very clear. We need to have, like you also described, a fully resilient supply chain, not for the whole market, but for a substantial part of the market in Europe. That means from vertical and horizontal, from polysilicon to module, and then downwards, it should also cover the key materials which we need to our European solar manufacturing ecosystem. Now, if you ask me who should be inside, who should be owner, who should steer the pot, I would say I see two major extremes. One is, of course, companies like Enel, who are saying, I have my own offtakes, I'm going into a very advanced technology, even tandem, I can afford because I have my own offtakes. Then they're hammering cell and module into Catania, that's perfect. That's one extreme. But it requires a huge corporate, which also has a strong offtake pipeline, and then they can do it. Or, what I see from the other 4 projects we are governing is a more stepwise approach and even onboarding Chinese shareholders. That's another pathway which I see. So that means if we use mainstream technology, which should be a bankable product, because, I mean, if you want to sell the products from our European factories to European off-takers, they want to have a bankable product. So we cannot be super innovative at the first. But if you talk about mainstream products, then, of course, the leading, how shall I say, country is China. So what we see from the European projects, the other ones, then they're onboarding up to 20% Chinese shareholding. That's number one, to get access to Chinese technology and Chinese supply chain at the beginning. Then although some of those projects even onboarding government shareholding, that gives credibility on financing and also for the off-takers, government shareholding should be considered. And then the rest should be in industrial investors locally. So I see these two extremes. And what also we have to keep in mind, we need really a stepwise approach. We cannot hammer a total European ecosystem into the ground in 1-2 years. That's a dream. So we have to start with a 1 gigawatt factory in Germany, in Italy, 3 gigawatts are already there. And then we can go into cell, then we can go into ingot and wafer. And then it's a European duty, because we have very good cost locations at places in Europe for ingot and wafer. We have super good locations with talented engineers in various places in Europe. So it's a joint effort of the whole European sector, but a stepwise approach, a smart approach. In a certain condition, we have to also produce mainstream products. That we might have to onboard some Chinese guys to support us. From the machine making point, I'm also the spokesman of the German Machine Maker Association, VDMA. That has to be on European machines. Whenever we have European machines, we should use European machines. Because, I mean, to make a service of a Chinese machine in Europe, good luck. Really good luck. I wish good luck. So it should be European machines, but whatever we don't have the machines, you know, in some steps of the value chain, we are a little bit weak. Then we can, of course, invite the Chinese to come and to support us. But all the rest, European machines, please.
Thank you, Peter. Well put. Maybe, I mean, this conversation, we can make it very quickly, very concrete, because we're very pleased to have Mr. Eldon Lee here amongst us from Das Solar in France. Das Solar is a Chinese company with plans to investing in solar manufacturing in Europe. So, yeah, Mr. Lee, I'll let you reflect on what you just heard, and 20% only EU machines. Is that your plan?
Well, no, thank you that I can also speak to this. I mean, I wish my colleague also from Italy good luck. But I think the market is big enough for both of us and even more. But actually, I joined Das Solar quite recently, actually this month, because the chairman and CEO, he was the CTO of JA Solar, and before, some years ago, I was the head of Europe in JA Solar, so he knew I understand the local market. And why I joined was actually because, in my opinion, it's really important to have Chinese companies being involved. Chinese companies have proven that they stay around. So we have solar modules with 25 years of warranty. And we have a huge procurement volume in China. So I was always wondering, because I also did procurement, how can we survive with 1 gigawatt, 2 gigawatts in Europe, when in China they procure 100 gigawatt as one company even. So having a procurement partnership with a Chinese company, I think that's important, but also R&D. It's not only that like Das Solar has, of course, huge R&D force, but we can see in China people are moving around. So even our chairman, as I said, he was CTO of JA Solar, he also worked for Suntec, he also worked for Jollywood. So what you basically have, you have 500 gigawatt R&D people improving production lines, improving machineries. And we can see how really the Chinese have managed to bring cost down and down and down, and this will continue. So that's why I think it's not only required that the Chinese stay there in the beginning, because what will happen with the production after 5 years? It should be continuously improving to stay competitive and to give good prices by this. So from that point of view, I see it's important, or at least very beneficial price-wise, to have a procurement partnership and an R&D partnership with a Chinese company. So Das Solar now has chosen to invest in France. One of the reasons was that French electricity has the lowest carbon footprint within the EU. And we will also partner with local investors. So it's even the strategy, because our board understands that Europe wants local business also to benefit and to be involved. So certainly local business is benefiting, because we are in Montbéliard in France, and the local city thinks that several times the amount we will employ will be employed by surrounding companies supporting our manufacturing. Then we will also look for local suppliers, and then certainly investors. We have already local investors, but Das Solar is also looking forward to reduce its shares below 50%, to be a minority shareholder, so that it can be really a European company. And we are also open even to change the name. So if here is anybody who wants to invest, please come and see me afterwards, and we can discuss it. So we are totally open to local ownership.
Fantastic, because I think that's of course important, what you said at the end, and that's the stepwise picture that Peter was also describing. It is, this entire endeavor is about building a healthy, thriving European ecosystem around solar production. So the ownership structures matter. Yeah? So when you say that there is an openness to go to minority shareholder, what does that mean concretely? Is there like a timeline with respect to that? Is that, are you starting with a majority Chinese shareholdership in your project and then planning to kind of gradually phase this out? Or what can you say about that, that plan, and making sure that your investment is to the benefit of the European economy ultimately, Mr. Lee? Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, it certainly, as I said, pointed out, it benefits the European economy, and I think once you have a local production, Europe can control it, so it's local. We have already investments, minority shareholders, and there are further talks, and we are open to further talks. So that's why at the moment I don't foresee when we will be a minority shareholder, but we even don't exclude going public, that really everybody in the room can buy shares in some years. So this certainly depends on the interest of investors when we will go to minority, but we will stay engaged in the company. As I said, procurement and R&D partnership, I think, are essential to keep prices down.
Thank you very much. So basically it will depend on your interest in investment, on how quickly it will be a minority share. Great. Mr. Jacek, or Trzynski, do you have any reactions to what you've heard so far? Like, especially on the last point, just to pose a question like this, what Mr. Lee describing, would that fit under the resilience definition of the Net Zero Industry Act? Would the panels from Dassault France be resilient? Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that fits. That production would be considered as diversified, it's a big debate we have now in the Commission, because it's not only solar, also in batteries. There's a big debate to what extent genuine European players can scale up on their own, and to what extent we need partners, Korean, Chinese, Japanese. And I would say here two things. One is the aspect of this foreign direct investment. What are the conditions that we apply to them? Currently, we don't have at EU level very strong tools to influence member states' decisions. We can suggest some action if we can see a clear threat to security. But beyond the threat of security, which rarely can be proven, there are no clear conditions in terms of sharing IP rights or sourcing locally. But I think there will be an effort in the Commission to engage bilaterally with member states when such big deals are planned, to make sure that these investments benefit local actors. And the second aspect regarding third country investors is, regarding their parent company, what kind of advantages it gives them in terms of, having a level playing field vis-a-vis really genuine European actors, because, often, and for that we have the foreign subsidies regulation notably, under which we can check whether the third country provides some kind of guarantees or preferential financing that allows those companies installed in Europe to have certain advantages in terms of, for example, giving their clients the possibility to have deferred payments. So we really have to look carefully at the conditions under which these companies invest and operate, but in general, these investments are of course welcome.
Very good, thank you, Jacek. Moving on to a different part of this endeavor, of this journey towards the European ecosystem, and that's not necessarily about creating the demand through the Net Zero Industry Act and other tools, but about providing the finance to actually build and run those factories that we need. Financing, Jacek already talked about it, can be European through the Innovation Fund, for example, or any future funds, or can also be national, and that's where it relates to state aid rules. What does the Commission allow member states to finance and what not? Is it related to capital expenditure only, or also to operational expenditure? So I just wanted to give the floor to the panelists, each in sequence, asking the question like, how important are European funding mechanisms for you? If I can start with Mr. Lorenzi, has that been a critical part of your FID, of your investment decisions, cooperation with European funds or any of the like?
Yes.
Mr. Lorenzi. Yeah.
No, thanks, Dries. Well, first of all, just a couple of words. I mean, I probably sound a little bit negative about Chinese and China, and it is absolutely not true. I have a lot of respect, actually, for China and Chinese. We are continuous exchange at the scientific level with Chinese scientists and companies. But this is the financing tools that we are asking for are necessary for establishing a level playing field. That's all about this. Today, this is an unfair competition, so we cannot compete at only the price level. I would love, to be honest, not to be here today to talk about financing tool. I would love to be able to go to the market and compete, because that's the ambition of every business person on earth. And why we are here to discuss about financing tool is because we need to establish this level playing field. Otherwise, the industry, the PV manufacturing industry, like many others in Europe, will not restart at all. We are an exception. I know I have the privilege of having a very strong shareholder backing me up, but we have been in contact with all the other companies, all that have projects, two in France, in Holland, in Spain. They have projects already in their drawer, very ready, similar to what we did. They came to Catania, we discussed, we share information. They are there. Europe could get to maybe 10, 20 giga in a couple of years, which is a fraction, because for the rest, we will keep buying Chinese, of course. We're not going to be able to revert the whole thing. But how are we going to enable this 20, 30 gig, whatever the number is going to be, to exist? These guys are failing to do fundraising, because today there is not an equity story you can tell an investor without a clear regulatory framework. So there are no investors ready to put money on European companies, because there is no equity story. So the financing tool, we benefit, for instance, we had, I don't know if I can say, but a very huge investment ticket, because we choose European companies for manufacturing, for instance, which, by the way, are much more expensive than Chinese companies. But in order to protect IPR, we decided not to use a Chinese company in our cell line. Just as an example, it costs twice. Producing a heterojunction today with a non-Chinese company costs twice that setting a TOPCon factory. Now, we benefit from some CapEx innovation fund, 200 million, just to be specific, out of a total CapEx spent so far, which is above 800 millions. But that's not enough. Actually, if we keep talking about financing the CapEx, it's a lost battle, because in the end, the problem is the OpEx. There is not going to be any investor, even if you give all the money, 100%, to build a factory, if then the price, the street price, it's lower than the cost, there is no investor who will put money in this.
If I may add, I had a conversation with a small module manufacturing company, and he said, even if you give me a line for free, so you are not giving a gift, you are giving a doom to me. Even if you give me the line for free. That was his pain.
Absolutely. So I know this is difficult, and it's something that we haven't done before, because financing the OpEx sounds like, I don't know, something... that's the reality. We need to find mechanisms. And again, let's remember, we are not planning to replace Chinese. We're not talking about trade defense measures where we don't want to buy Chinese any longer. That would be impossible, right? So we're talking about how to build a share of the 70 gigawatt, whatever the number is going to be, growing, right, Walburga, in the coming years of solar. How can we make the next 10? I'm going to have 3. Okay, I'm not going to do more than 3. I have enough. So I need to sell now the 3 gigawatt, right? But okay, let's say another 3, 4 companies, we could get to 20. But that's the objective. And we will keep buying happily Chinese for the foreseeable future. So Mr. Lee has a bright future in Europe.
But can I, so thanks a lot for that. Can I pick up on the OpEx point nevertheless? Because of course this is a very important political conversation as well. There's a new state aid framework in the making around the Clean Industrial Deal. The question is again, will it open up more for operational expenditure support? The answer, as far as I know from the drafts, is no. Now, I mean, OpEx is about energy costs, electricity costs primarily. Is it not just a matter of locating your factories in places in Europe where electricity costs are lower? Because this is, of course, part of the competitiveness conversation. There's a lot of juggling with EU average numbers compared to US average numbers and what have you average numbers. And that, of course, misses a little bit of a point. Some parts of the European Union have lower electricity prices than some parts of the US. And so to what extent is it just a matter of choosing the right location, Stefano?
Dries, this is more complex than that, unfortunately. You know, if you look at the cost structure, I mean, there are 3 main elements. Well, the first is dumping. Today, Chinese are selling below cost. This bubble, this overcapacity bubble, I visited quite a lot of Chinese factories. All the factories I visited, 2/3 were switched off. They were working without light, okay, to save money. So they have to sort this mess out. They have 1.2 terawatt installed capacity. The global demand is 300 gigawatt. Okay, so first component is approximately 1/3 of the gap. The second is bill of materials. I mean, the materials, indeed, they buy from China, they buy bigger volumes. Elongi buys 80 gigawatt, I buy 3. So it's what Lee was saying, right? So there is some scale, economy of scale, which you cannot compete against. And the third is a combination of labor, energy, labor. I mean, I ask the plant head, how do you cover 24/7? We start working 24/7. I have 5 shifts. Yes, 3. So it's not only the labor cost, the unitary cost is lower, but these guys work in, it's illegal in Europe to do a 24/7 with 3 shifts. So it's a combination. Energy is also a piece of that, because obviously in Italy, but in general in Europe, cost of energy is higher. But you need to look at the whole OPEX thing. When I say OPEX, it's the combination of these 3 elements: dumping, bill of materials, and OPEX, labor, energy, and stuff like that.
Thank you. Very good. Can I bring in Javier to this conversation? You already had a nice example to share. But what else could you say about the importance of European financing tools? Is that something that Mondragon is looking at, relying on? How do you see that?
Yeah, so we are working with a European financing tool. So for all our R&D work, in the part of the network I was speaking, part of the chain, it's the net. The R&D institutions, it's a crucial part of it. They are doing a lot of work to keep the hope for the European industry, and we are working with them, with all the Fraunhofer, CA, Ines, CSM, TNO, ISE Constance, etc. We are working with them. So they are using our equipment to test the technology of the future. So we are using European funds for that. So that's, for us, it's key. It's what it allows us to stay on the race of this sector. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Katharina, how do you see that? Where does that stand in your radar as a company?
Yeah, let's say for us it's a little bit different. Let's say the production is mainly done by, as I said before, aluminium manufacturers in Europe. We are partnering with them, and of course we are talking also about investment if they have to ramp up, as we did in the last couple of years. On the other hand, we are working with R&D tools. We have quite a big part of digitalization, digital services, where we partner with a lot of other inverter companies, etc. And for there, we use some R&D tools, but somehow less of bureaucracy would be highly appreciated, because sometimes you just think, okay, let's go forward and let's do it like that. And then, of course, what we get with some of our customers, what we know is sometimes for them it's a hustle, really, with European financial tools.
Can you say something more about it, if you can? Because of course the reducing bureaucracy is generally a good idea if it doesn't have a clear purpose. And of course we know that there's a lot of enthusiasm around improving competitiveness through simplification and cutting red tape. That's all fine, but to what it still needs to be useful. So we don't have to cut bureaucracy and then lose an important, let's say, environmental objective. So I don't know to what extent you can give an example about what bureaucracy are you confronted with that you think could be reduced and streamlined.
Yeah, let's say we're doing, for example, either on the German level or European level, we did some ask for R&D help, let's say, finance, and that was really, let's say, we took consultancy because it's just too much work on asking for financing. So let's say, in our way, that agile industry, especially, let's say, also in the downstream, we have to be agile, because there's always that solar coaster needs to adapt every year, almost every 6 months or something. So going through these, it's quite, you need to dedicate someone, and that's why we took consultancy. And I know a lot of other companies are doing the same. Let's say we are working on some AI tools, doing a lot, or let's say on these digitalized tools where we can partner better together. And then it would just be easier having that a little bit simpler. But also, let's say, therefore, Germany is a little bit a bad example. So we love to have it a little bit more bureaucratic, but it was also on a European level. I think we could streamline that. I don't want to think about something like in the US, they are doing it currently, but really streamlining it a little bit, that it's not so much deeper, that you could maybe working more on a proof of concept. You're showing a proof of concept, getting the next financing, etc. Then doing an ongoing concept. Let's say we dedicated one person for 2 months, and then we noticed, okay, it worked out, it was cool, but still it was, and we were not asking for a lot of money, let's say. It's not like putting up a fab as you did. You know, it's just totally different, as we are more or less, let's say, we have procurement, sales, and of course R&D on a bigger level, but it's different than putting up a manufacturing company.
Terrific. Yeah. Thank you very much, Katarina, for that example. That's very good to know. Peter, turning to you, what's your perspective on the financing of factories today? Is that sufficiently there to help the business case? Peter?
I think from my perspective, if you ask me about European financing, first we have debt financing from European Investment Bank, which is highly appreciated, and they have good schemes. Also for the very sensitive time of the initial phase of a project, they give project-driven initial bridge financing for the initiation of the factory, where the capital is very difficult to find. That's also very positive. And then we have, of course, the equity financing that mostly we have schemes in Europe, we have states in Europe who are brave to take some equity shares. And then Europe, of course, should give a positive signal that's possible. Then we have, of course, incentives, CapEx incentives, which are either federal from the national governments or from the state governments. Also, I feel there's also positive momentum in Brussels to say, okay, if that is a project of national and European relevance, please give the subsidies and do it quick. This was really in the German project very fast executed, unexpected, with clearance on the state subsidies. And then what else? Don't disregard export chances for European factories, because what we observe is local content requirement. If I take a European export financing scheme for renewable projects, that just shows 30% local content. So that means when we have a German module or European module, then we are fully applying export financeable, and we are export financeable. And then our factories can also look at exporting our goods in connection with setting up solar plants, setting up solar and storage plants, setting solar plus hydrogen facilities globally. And that's another beautiful business. Or supporting Ukraine, we had the speech before. That is also something which can then be supported by European and national financing schemes. So, and then for me, the final target, it was mentioned just now, when I look at European equity investors, for them the story is first layer, 3 gigawatt, 2 gigawatt, 5 gigawatt should be on these financing schemes I just tried to describe. And the next layer of growth, IPO, getting really access to Frankfurt, Paris, London Stock Exchange, and make a great IPO story for the next 5 giga or 10 giga layer. So that is really, I mean, I have a good feeling now. It's moving. It's moving.
You just laid out a really compelling business plan. Thank you, Peter. and thanks also for mentioning the international dimension, because that's what I said before. You should join the Solar Power Europe initiative called ISME, the International Solar Manufacturing Initiative, where we exactly have that conversation. Like how can we leverage European investment outside, not directly in plants also, but just in deployment as well, and bring European products into that. Yeah? Resilience in international financing, to make it with a slogan. So thank you very much, Peter, for that. Maybe I turn to Mr. Lee, because you've talked about your concrete project in France. Is there any kind of European or national public funding in the picture of your investment? Was it, if so, was it a critical part of it, or is it all, let's say, private merchant-based?
Yes, so we didn't receive any financial support.
Yes or no? Sorry.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, so we did not receive any financial support from French government or from the EU. Nevertheless, we really we really feel welcome in Montbéliard in France from the local government. Montbéliard had in its peak 40,000 people working for Peugeot. Now it's only 5,000, but you see it has a history in manufacturing. So we feel quite welcome there. And we thought it's important rather to be fast, to be an early mover, because we expect some resilient schemes from the EU. And then we thought better be early in the market, and let's hope that the scheme the EU will provide will be good enough for our investment. Actually, our factory is planned in a way that in addition to the 3 gigawatts of modules, we also can install 3 gigawatts of cell capacity and 3 gigawatt of wafer capacity. So real resilience. But at the moment, I don't really see the business model for cell and wafer manufacturing. Here, I really would look forward to financing resilient scheme, like even more if the wafers are from within the EU. Then we are ready to invest also in cell and wafers within the next 2 years.
Fantastic, very interesting. So it's interesting to know that for you, the expectation of the resilience market that is being created through the Net Zero Industry Act is sufficient to pull for a new investment like that. So that's interesting. And maybe, also a positive note. Jacek, what do you make of what you've heard? Because people are saying that there's the project pipeline for solar manufacturing in Europe is quite extensive. So we are talking about projects that get us up to 20, even more gigawatts, very close to our political ambition. So what's your analysis as to what Europe can do extra, just to kind of tip it over from a finance point of view in particular, maybe from an OpEx point of view, better leveraging innovation funds for solar manufacturing. What can Europe do just a little extra on the financing so that we actually get those projects from paper to reality?
No, indeed, I think it was a very good discussion, and it's a rather positive message, I think, that we heard here. And I think there's a number of things we have to do. I mean, we mentioned NZIA several times. I think what you said, Dries, linking procurement notably to the rooftop initiative, creating a real momentum with member states to get these things done can really help. Financing as well. I mean, there's a lot of sources of financing. There are the ETS revenues, for example, hundreds of billions of euros. And member states agreed as part of the Net Zero Industry Act that there would be an indicative objective that 25% of those ETS revenues are spent on NZIA-related objectives. So we have to really connect the dots, ask member states how are they following up on what they have agreed, and then help them set up these financing schemes in place. And then the next step, OpEx, as I said, we are now consulting on the new state aid framework. I think OpEx is not off the table. So let's see what the outcome of the consultation brings, and we will have discussions within the Commission to see how we could adjust the framework to make it even more favorable.
Fantastic. OpEx is not off the table. That's motivating. Very good. I'm conscious of time, but nevertheless, wanted to give you in the last round each, and I read here 1 minute, but I'm going to lower it, each 20 seconds for your one ask that you want the Commission to take with them after this session. And I will start from the right side of the panel, and I will talk a little bit more, so I give you some mental space to think about it, Peter. So what is the thing that you want Jacek to bring back to the Commission that you believe is needed to get a lot closer to the 30 gigawatts solar manufacturing and the healthy ecosystem that we were talking about? Peter.
So for me, I mean, I have to say, I mean, we have a hard nut to crack to reshore manufacturing, that's sure. It's our dream, it's our vision, it's supported by our leadership. So, I mean, Europeans, we have been the pioneers in solar. Now we are a little bit weak. I think it's just a matter of following the dream, spitting in the hand, making a good work, combining machine sector, universities, innovation. Stop to cry, stop to be negative, be positive, and just move ahead and make it done. That's my final conclusion.
Loving it. Thank you. Mr. Otaño.
Yeah, for us, I would say on the resilient criteria, made in Europe, consider that that's not a 0 or a 1. There is a lot of ways of making it made in Europe. So consider capital, equipment, raw materials, etc. This should give a wider options, and that the made in Europe should not be the aim by itself. It should be in the combination of the Chinese or other sources of goods. So the objective is to have enough capacity in Europe to have a healthy network.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Lorenzo.
Yeah, I think we spoke a lot about production and factories. I happen to have a gigafactory, but I think the focus, we should focus on technology and innovation. That's what, in my view, as European, that's the highest ambition, to reshore that level of knowledge and innovation. We have all the ingredients. We have very good talents, scientists. We just need to have the proper instruments and framework to make that happen. And I think for PV manufacturing, European PV manufacturing, the future could be brilliant. It's up to us.
Thank you. Katharina.
Yeah, let's say, as I said before, CBAM would be good for our part. Really bringing the ESG goals and pushing solar and not talking always about costs, but about quality, long stability. We are building the energy infrastructure, and that needs to be stable, etc. So not always talking about costs, because we have already a low cost when we are building up solar. So.
Super. Thank you very much. Alden.
Yes, when talking about resilience, certainly we have to see the whole value chain. And here what I can see is that like modules are in the focus, but what about cells? And especially what I hardly hear is about wafers. So what would be the support? Again, if there is support, we would produce within 2 years.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Can I ask a round of applause for the panel, please? Because I think some of the conclusions reminds me of...
It's green, eh?
Some of the conclusions remind me of what the Executive Vice President, Teresa Ribeiro, said yesterday as well. We have the capacity, we have the knowledge, we have the skills. So maybe it's all just a little bit a matter of self-confidence. Yeah? So voila, let's get this done. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks very much, Dries. Now it's time for the coffee break. Reminder, you can put out your thoughts on today's events on social media using the hashtag #SolarPowerSummit. We'll see you back in here at 11 o'clock for the next panel, which is on permitting best practices that can speed up the solar rollout. Alternatively, you can check out the battery room for a side session about how the leading solar markets are dealing with negative prices in Europe. We'll see you in either room in 30 minutes.